Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or good morning, depending on where you're viewing from all around the world. And I want to welcome you to yet again another wonderful Monday of ITWLA Europe Leadership Conversation. Yes, it's Leadership Conversation again, and I welcome you all as all our audience, our viewers are tuning in from all around the world, from Europe, from the Bahamas, from the US, from Africa, all the different regions, even in England here. We welcome you especially to this wonderful conversation today. When I say, we're surely going to have a wonderful time today. My name is JD Modede, and I happen to be the regional ambassador for Europe, and I'll be your moderator today. Today, we have a fantastic, phenomenal guest, friend, brother that we've eaten from the same place, lived under the same roof, and I'm talking about a mindset. I'm talking about knowledge base and things like that. We grew in the same house under our late and great founder, the Dr. Miles Monroe. And I'm telling you, when Dr. Miles Monroe walks on you, it will definitely, bring out the best version of you. And that's why today, and we're running a series in the month of October as well, with my very, very dear brother and friend, Mr. Ambassador Yemi Akinsiwaju, Ambassador Yemi Akinsiwaju, the leadership catalyst. Welcome.
Lovely evening to you. Thank you so much for having me on this show tonight. It's certainly a tremendous pleasure and privilege to be with you and to serve the leadership family, really, all around the world, both aspiring and experienced leaders, from across the world. It's always a joy and a privilege. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Out, we've traveled, quite a while, with our beloved mentor, Papa, friend, Dr. Miles Monroe. So it's great to see the fruit of his labors.
Wow.
Really being unveiled, as it were, day by day, month by month, in the lives of all of us that he mentored, doing the work that we do to impact our world.
That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for honoring that invitation. It's such a great pleasure having you. And so as we go on, we have our viewers and audience coming in from all around the nations, and I know they would love to know, who is this man, Ambassador Yemi Akinsiwaju? And I don't think I can do justice. That's why I kept mine so simple. Tell us all about you, and we need all, because so that we know which part of it, we're going to bite and things like that. Thank you. And people are sending hello, they're sending their greetings all around the world. I can see here, Mr. Femi Ajayi says hello, sir. Okay, great. So Ambassador Yemi, tell us about yourself, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, it is my great privilege to also serve with you within the International Third World Leaders Association. I serve on the board of directors, that organization. And for those who don't know about ITWLA, we're a leadership organization that develops leaders across 40 nations of the world. And the leadership people that we serve really comes all the way from prime ministers, presidents, all the way down to, school children in primary school, because it's it embraces our philosophy that every human is born to be a leader. And so that is certainly our passion in ITWLA. I also serve as the executive director for Young Emerging Leaders here in the UK. It's an organization that serves millennial leaders, again, helping them to discover and maximize their leadership potential. Then I also serve as the director of administration for New One International, one of the major Christian organizations here in the United Kingdom. I'm privileged also to serve as the father in my home to my wonderful daughters, and a husband to my wife, my beautiful wife. And it's above all, I'm a kingdom citizen. So I guess in a nutshell, that really captures a bit of who I am.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And also a father. As we always say, leadership determines everything. The quality of our organization, the quality of our nations, our communities, even our families, determine, or the quality of leadership determines the quality of the product we get as well.
Absolutely.
It defines everything. It defines everything. And just before we go on, I just remembered, just tonight, I said over the weekend, and as you know, that ITWLA, we really focus on the third world, the developing nations around the world. So we're always, looking at what is going on around the world and how we can, be of, value to all those places. And over the weekend, in Africa, let's just take a quick visit, a dive to Africa right now. And over the weekend, Nigeria, the country of Nigeria, called the giant of Africa, celebrated 62 years of independence. And I got some invite to come and speak in one or two places and things like that. But just reflecting, as well. What's your word? What's a word? What's your word for that nation, that the country? At 62, seeing where we are and what can really happen as well. So we want to hear a word from Ambassador Yemi as well in that context.
Thank you so much. Well, I guess belatedly, congratulations to the wonderful nation of Nigeria. Happy 62nd independence anniversary. I mean, the journey thus far, when you look back, I think one of the things it does say to us is that there is so much potential that is lying dormant in Africa, and Nigeria epitomizes that. Now it is called the giant of Africa, but I think to a large extent you probably say it's still a sleeping giant, that hasn't really fully discovered its unique assignment and purpose to the earth. And I think as a nation, we really need to raise our collective consciousness beyond the things that we have debated, spoken about, and argued about in the last few years. Our world is going through tremendous change. In the last few weeks, months, we're hearing of national leaders in the West speaking casually about global nuclear warfare. And we have nations in Africa talking about, getting, little bags of rice to feed their citizenry, whilst the entire world is teetering on the edge of nuclear warfare. You have to think there's just no comparison, in the quality of thinking that's, is informing what's happening in our world today. So I think the time definitely has come. Times of great crisis are also times of great opportunity. And the global crisis that we're facing now, economically, socio-politically, certainly creates an opportunity for Nigeria as a nation, and definitely within the African context, to really step into the breach to realize its leadership potential. And my clarion call really is to all leaders in Nigeria. And by that, I don't mean political leaders only. I mean leaders at every level within the nation, to raise our collective consciousness beyond just being producers and arguers of minutiae, but to raise our collective consciousness to a position of understanding that we are called to exercise true leadership in the earth. And we can make a difference. We can take quantum leaps in our development right now, okay, that will position us. I was reading an article recently on Investopedia, and they were listing the top 25 nations economically in the world. And there was no African nation that I could see there. Okay, the top 25 nations. And yet, Nigeria has at least 200 million people strong. Okay, PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, did a study. This was a few years ago. And they projected that in 2050, the nations that they felt will be powerhouses economically. And they positioned Nigeria that Nigeria will be the 14th biggest economy in 2050. That was 5 years ago when they did that study. And now Nigeria has dropped out, does not even show up in the first 25, which means effectively the nation is retrogressive rather than progressive. And so as a nation, really, I believe that Nigeria really needs to collectively, and I think that's important, because sometimes when we talk about leadership, oftentimes people are thinking about those who are, presidents and, senators and, you know, um, but basically leaders at every level. Okay, we need to understand that we need to up our game individually and collectively, because the change that we want to see in our nation starts with us.
The change that we want to see starts with us. Wow. Man, you touch on quite a number of things that is waking, is gonna, open a whole kind of beautiful things. Don't let me, using the right context of words. And I can see people commenting all over the place already. So you've mentioned collective consciousness. There needs to be an awakening. We all need to rise to the occasion. That's the call that Ambassador Yemi is really making to us, especially within the context of Nigeria, which we can use also to represent the nation of Africa itself. A collective call, a collective consciousness, a call to arise to our responsibility, and which really leads me, to another area of discussion or conversation tonight as well. As you and I also know, our founding father, one of the major principles of leadership that he was fond of talking about was the fact that leadership, in nation building, you don't want to build a nation or even an organization, a community with a leader, but rather you want to build an organization or a nation of leaders, itself. And I begin to see something, a similarity in what the call you're making to the nation of Nigeria in that place. And so share with us, our viewers, our audience, and many people who are going to watch this broadcast later, what does this really mean? What's the purpose of it, and what will be the benefit of we building a nation of leaders or building an organization of leaders, rather a nation with a leader? Because we're always talking about that leader. Everybody's looking at this leader, but now we begin to talk about this principle about leaders, that in the context of collective consciousness, really I can use right now freely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a profound question. As you rightly pointed out, Dr. Miles Monroe, who really was at the epitome of a sound leadership. He was a global leadership statesman. And he picked up on this, many, many years ago whilst he was still with us. The truth of the matter is this: when we build an organization, a family, a community around a leader, what we find out is that we stifle the innovative capacity of the rest of the organization. We also limit the generational or the longevity of that organization or that nation. Because if anything happens to that one individual, then you literally, destroy the capacity of that organization to survive. ITWLA is a fundamental example of that principle. For those of us who know the story, ITWLA, an organization, thriving, phenomenal organization led by Dr. Miles Monroe. It's a good thing it wasn't built just around him. He built and cultivated leaders. And when sadly he was taken away from us in very, very, sudden circumstances, because he had built leaders, okay, everybody basically just slotted into the position for which we had been, built. We were ready. We were good to go. There was no woe is me and how do we survive, and everybody just slotted into what we needed to do, and the organization kept moving, and here we are today. So I think if you want your organization, if you want your community, if you want your nation to flourish beyond the life of the leader, then you have to build a body of leaders. You have to decentralize the leadership capacity of that enterprise, as it were, so that every person within that organization, that community, that nation is empowered to release their own personal leadership potential and bring it to play on the growth of that nation. When you build a nation of leaders, you find out that everybody is empowered to release their innovative capacity. They're released to develop their own ideas. They're released to fulfill their own potential. They're released to enjoy personal fulfillment because they're allowed to be who they really are. And collectively, you get a multiplier effect of all of these leadership capacities that are coming into play to build the organization or the nation together.
Fantastic, fantastic. Ambassador Yemi, I think, I don't think you could put it any better. Building structures that outlive ourselves, that outlive men. And I think this really, opens up, the context of developing nation, because it looks like everything dies with a leader. Everything ends with a leader. Literally, we limit or we stifle. We do not allow potentials to come out because we build everything around one person, and that person goes. It's like everything goes. So we always start all over. Thank you. And I think,
and the powerful thing about what you just said is this: when you see that happening, what it reveals to us clearly is that there's a lack of vision within that enterprise, within that nation. True leadership demonstrates a vision that transcends the life of the leader.
Wow, wow, wow. Say that again one more time, please.
True leadership demonstrates a vision that transcends the life of the leader.
Oh my God. This is true leadership demonstrates. Yeah, say it again. I'm letting it go right into my psyche.
True leadership demonstrates a vision that transcends the life of the leader.
The life of the leader. Wow, wow.
And so you find out that many of our institutions, many of our nations, particularly in Africa, do not have a vision that transcends the individual leaders. They do not have a vision that transcends their political parties. They do not have a vision that transcends the self-aggrandizement of individuals.
Wow.
And that tells you that essentially we're laboring under defective leadership.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ambassador Yemi. This literally, this conversation, the way it's going right now, it just brings me back to all those times and days that we spent with our founder, Dr. Miles, and we kick off with one statement and it opens up a whole lot of deeper stuff and just open it up, and we can go on all through the night, just keeps on, and the depth of it is just endless. And I see this literally happening right now, because right now what you've just said is going to lead me, to another thoughts and other things I think we should dig deeper into, because when we begin to look at this, then it's important that we begin to look at some characteristics, of the kind of leader, the future global leader, the kind of leader then that our nations, and especially our developing nations, our families, our communities, our organization really should have, or a true leader. What are those traits that a true leader then needs to display? And I'm picking up on this because you already mentioned one. You already mentioned vision. So what are your thoughts or principles that can put some of these things in place, especially for developing nations? So we want to know some of those characteristics, some of those traits as well, because we need to develop a nation, a community, a family of leaders. So we need to know what to do. And this is why we have the leadership catalyst here. Please help us.
Thank you.
Tonight.
Thank you so much for that powerful question. What kind of traits do we require of our leaders of today? Essentially, like you rightly pointed out, first of all, we need leaders who have vision, leaders who are generational thinkers. We need leaders of integrity, leaders whose moral compass is not compromised by money, fame, or self-aggrandizement in whatever form it expresses itself. We need leaders who are committed to raising other leaders. In essence, leaders who are passionate about mentoring and unleashing the potential of others around them. We need leaders who are passionate about serving their people. We need leaders who understand that they are there to benefit the people, not the people to benefit them. Okay. We need leaders who are committed to uh, productivity at the highest levels. And by productivity, I mean they understand that they do not demand of others that which they are not willing to do themselves. Yeah. They're willing to roll up their sleeves and get involved in the hard graft of actually developing their nation, of actually developing their organizations, of actually developing their people, you know, and their decisions reflect this thinking. You know, you and I were having a conversation just before the show started about a project that you were offering to one of the states in Nigeria,
Oh yeah, tell me
and
about it.
the sort of decisions that they were making revealed very clearly that
Yeah.
they had no mind for actually developing the potential. You mentioned that this project had the potential to create job opportunities for at least 30 to 35,000 young
Yes.
people in the nation.
Yeah.
Even if the economic prospects are not immediately apparent, just the idea that you can actually take 35,000 young people off the streets and empower them to fulfill their own potential, get opportunity to deploy their own skills and capabilities, surely ought to at least attract them to the idea, but they can't see it. And
Hmm.
that shows very, very clearly that there's a poverty of thinking,
Hmm.
okay,
Yeah.
in that kind of leadership. So we need a new breed of leaders who are able to think outside the current scope of
Hmm.
their thinking. Now, we
Yes.
also need leaders who have the courage of their convictions,
Hmm.
especially in the world we're living in today. Many leaders, there's a lot of political correctness that's happening around the world. And I say this within the context of what you call, global leadership.
That's right.
There is a desire to play to the gallery, to make comments and make decisions that satisfy certain politically correct, as it were, stakeholders. And yet the decisions that flow from such an attitude or such an approach, the decisions are suboptimal. The decisions negate common sense thinking.
Oh my God.
Okay. The,
Oh my
the,
God.
the decisions are so defective
Yes.
that
Tell me about it.
it's as a cancer that is eating into the very fabric of society.
Oh my God.
And therefore, we need a breed of leaders who have backbone, who
Hmm.
have the courage of their convictions,
That's right.
especially if you're a kingdom citizen who understands
Yes.
that we operate by a paradigm that
Yes.
has stood the test of time.
That's right.
We
Wow.
operate by a paradigm that defies political, social constructs and ideologies and philosophies of men that come and go. All of those are transient. But when you operate by the paradigm by which you operate, that has stood for at least 5,000 years, has seen empires rise and fall, and continues to keep on trucking,
Yes.
that are the kind of the sort of principles and ideas and principles and precepts that the kind of leaders of today need to cultivate.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
They need the courage of those kind of convictions, knowing that the principles by which they stand are anchored in truth, and
Yes.
truth will stand
Yes.
regardless of what comes against it.
Wow. 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 I hope, everyone is tuned in with all their heart and listening to, what is coming out of this broadcast today. Remember, this is ITWLA Europe leadership conversation. And at the beginning of this broadcast, or right close to the beginning, Ambassador Yemi has said something to us that, don't just think this is for somebody else. We need to have a collective consciousness of all of this. And that means you and I as well. We need to be visionary in our living. You need a vision, no matter, because your life needs leadership, and that means it is applicable to us personally first, then into corporate areas and things like that. We need to be generational thinkers. My God, are you only living for yourself, or living for today, or living for what you can have, or do you have a commitment to make sure that, generation yet unborn, you would have impacted them before they even come? Have you laid a foundation that they're going to stay, or do they have to go and do another struggle just like you started? I was writing all this. We need to have integrity where our moral compass is not being compromised. In the world we have today, we lack integrity. We're not all one into ourselves. We say something, we do another thing, and that's crazy. So a political leader comes out, we're gonna make sure that we're gonna take care of the economy, and they get there and they say, look, hey, let that wait. That's not integrity. We need leaders who empower others, just like Bill Gates said. In this generation, leaders are those who empower others, and we got to understand it. We need leaders who will mentor, who will actually have a succession program, who will hand over the baton, to those who are behind. Some die with the baton clinging onto it in their
Sounds
grave.
great. Right.
And we need a world that's going to break those grave open and collect the baton from their hands. You need to hand over the baton before you die. Don't die with the baton, and we don't even understand where you got the baton from, how to use the baton itself. And I'm telling you, this is just a journey that we've just started today. By the way, I want to make sure that we get to a place, we close in a very comfortable place. And I think there's just enough stuff for us to digest for the next 1 week. Ambassador Yemi, can I just say this, to all our viewers? Ambassador Yemi is coming back also next week on Monday. So we go on this series, on this journey itself, on building a nation of leaders. We want to be a collective, leadership. What do you call it? A community, a collective, a community of leaders, a nation of leaders. And I think that will begin to really address major issues and make our world a better place to really be. That it's not that someone was called and you were left behind, or you were a follower and in the front. No, the whole reason of us following is because it makes us become leaders. Followers follow because following is what puts you in the lead eventually. So this is what the journey is all about. And Ambassador, this is fantastic. Just before we close tonight, because we have just a few moments as well, I know you've been working so hard on some materials, and people are listening to you tonight and thinking, my God, I need some more of this guy. Yes, of course. We're of the same stock. This is a breed of the Miles Monroe stock itself. Tell us some of your materials quickly. We've got a minute to do that. Some of the materials that people can look for online and just take you home. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, I would love to invite our audience really to go to my website. It's yemiakinsiwaju.com, and they'll see quite a number of my resources that are available there. I have a book called The Leadership Jigsaw, and Dr. Miles Monroe actually wrote the foreword to that book, as well as my book Scorecard. I'm probably the only person on the planet that he actually wrote the foreword to 2 of his books.
Okay, I remember that.
I've also written a book called Thrive, and volume 2 of Thrive is coming up. But if our audience goes to yemiakinsiwaju.com/leadership resources, I actually have a free resource there that they can register to collect. It's called 7 Big Mistakes That Leaders Unwittingly Make. And in there, I just share a couple of thoughts, very simple yet profound, that I think would empower leaders to really maximize their leadership potential. Once they can avoid these simple yet common mistakes, I think it positions them to become even more effective leaders in the different arenas in which they operate.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I think there's still one more there as well. But we're also going to talk about that in our next broadcast. And we're running out of time right now, all our viewers. It's only 30 minutes we've got today, and we really, really appreciate you. You can play back, this broadcast over and over again. Who are we? We're ITWLA Europe. And as we close, we look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same channel, ITWLA Europe, where we bring you leadership conversation. Ambassador Yemi, thank you so much. We look forward to having you back. Please, viewers, just watch this clip as we close as well. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you next week. Welcome to ITWLA Europe, and my name is JD Madede, the Regional Ambassador for ITWLA Europe. ITWLA, who are we? Watch this.
Hi, my name is Miles Monroe Jr., and I'm the Chairman of the Board for the International Third World Leaders Association. Our organization was birthed to respond to and address the critical need for quality, effective leadership development and training in the emerging developing nations.
Our vision is to establish a global network of leaders from every discipline,
committed to the highest standards of excellence in leadership training, personal development,
mutual accountability, and fraternal support, implementing relevant and innovative leadership philosophy based on time-tested precepts, principles, and values.
Our mission is to influence the destiny of developing third world nations through leadership training,
personal development, supportive relationships, and global networking.
Our purpose is to provide transformational solutions
in response to the dynamic leadership needs of the emerging third world developing nations.
Our goal is to cultivate leadership commitment
to produce leaders
dedicated to the empowerment of their people,
the progressive well-being of their citizens,
and the betterment of their nation.
The strategic approach captured in the slogan coined by our founder, Dr. Miles Monroe,
was transforming followers into leaders and leaders into agents of change. Our focus is national development through transformational leadership,
transforming nations, communities from the inside out.
Join us in ushering in this new era of our organization.
We are tasked with carrying this vision forward,
and we are devoted to ensuring that we leave an unwavering legacy.
The organization that produces effective leaders
with global reach and influence.
So friends, I'd like to invite you to ITWLA Europe weekly leadership conversation broadcast on a YouTube channel every Monday, 9 p.m. GMT, UK time. Every Monday, 9 p.m. UK time. Join us for this conversation.